Hello there, welcome back to the booth here at Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, that's Paul Cheon, and we've got the last round of Swiss ahead of us. Sitting down in the feature match area at 12-3 for Team Musashi, Teruya Kakumae. He's playing Selesnya tokens, and in a familiar matchup, he's going to be facing down Jérémy Dezani from France for Team Haruya Sword. 11-3-1 for Dezani, 12-3 for Kakumae. Very likely playing for a spot.
Yeah, he definitely has to play.
Okay.
He definitely has to play.
Gotta play.
Gotta play.
Let's head on down. It's time for round number 16 here from Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. And welcome back to coverage here in Atlanta, Georgia. We're here for Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. And Marshall Sutcliffe, I'm in the booth with Paul Cheon, and it has all come down to this, round number 16, the last round of Swiss. And winning in for top 8 between our two players in the feature match here, we have Teruya Kakumae from Japan. He plays for Team Musashi. He's playing Selesnya tokens. He's on 12-3, going for his first Pro Tour top 8. His opponent, though, is not going to make it easy on him. That is Jérémy Dezani from France. He plays for Team Haruya Sword. He's on Boros aggro at 11-3-1 record. And remember, he's already a Pro Tour champion and player of the year. So big business here. He's also on the plate, and Kakumae had to mulligan down to 6, Paul. So we thought this was a pretty good matchup for Teruya, all things considered, but we know some of these draws can just run you over from the Boros deck.
Right, definitely. And Jérémy Dezani, kind of a little more token-centric. He's got Goblin Instigator, actually, as one of his 2-mana options. Just fully having access to that gives you kind of more explosive starts with cards like Heroic Reinforcements. But I will say he is playing actual Boros, meaning that he cannot actually afford to play Banalish Marshal, which we've seen kind of do a lot of work. It allows you to attack your tokens through a bunch of smaller creatures, especially with the Selesnya token decks. Teruya Kakumae was able to just play Sapperling Migration and just brick wall a bunch of creatures in the previous matchup. But here, you know, without even the Banalish Marshal, it's going to be really hard.
Unfortunately for Adanto Vanguard.
Is this the same? Do we have a turn 3 play this time around?
Not yet. Not yet for either player. Okay, there's land number 3 for Kakumae, though he passes the turn back. He's got Adanto Vanguard on blocking duty. Let's see what
Aurelia? Nope.
No, Heroic Reinforcements, though, might be worse news here for Teruya Kakumae. That is going to pump up the team and create 2 hasty 1/1 soldiers, but they're effectively 2/2 for the turn.
Wow, this this is huge.
Even having missed a beat on turn 3 there for Dezani, this is a massive attack, and he sends everybody to the red zone. And as a nice little backup plan, Adanto, the first fort, also has arrived. And Kakumae sitting here staring at a 1/1. He just doesn't really have anything to do.
Right, and he doesn't even have a good block here. Everything is larger, and he has to pay 4 life to keep the Vanguard alive. So he just has to kind of take all of this here.
His only real option at this point is to play March of the Multitudes for 1.
Not great.
He can block and then make a 1/1. This is a really clunky draw from him. He actually has 2 copies of March of the Multitudes in his hand, as well as Tristani Discordant and Venerated Loxodon. So just the cool 5-drop, 5-drop, Expel in hand.
Yeah, that is one of the issues with this deck. If you don't manage to curve out smoothly, you're going to find yourself quickly behind. I mean, this deck really relies heavily on those 2-drops. Imara and Sapperling Migration, I think, being the most important of the 2-mana effects that he could have.
Yeah, I agree. Well, he just takes all of it. He's down to 4, and he's going to use his all of his resources there to make 1/1 lifelinking soldier off of March of the Multitudes. Not where he wanted to be at this point.
He really just... This is the turn. This is the turn that's extremely important. If Teruya can somehow survive this turn, on the following turn, he might be able to play Land Tristani. Let's take a look at his hand.
Now, I see that he's got an Ajani in his hand as well. And he's going to go ahead and play it. Yeah, well, he can make a couple of blockers, but he's just sitting here just clinging to life.
And he's got a 2/2 lifelinker on the battlefield here, so he can technically survive this game.
Lava coil, or excuse me,
Oh my goodness.
Removal spells. Wow, that
what a
was
draw.
insane. So what he actually did there, by the way, just to sum that up, that was Jérémy Dezani winning that game in impressive fashion. He played Goblin Instigator. That gives him 2 tokens, and then it looks like he also had another reinforcements or something like that.
Yeah. He went Goblin Instigator into Heroic Reinforcements,
So
which allowed him to just get in for over lethal. Let's just put it that way.
Way
And this is, a similar start that Teruya had in that first game in the previous match against Taejun Hao. And, now, Teruya on the back foot. But we've seen how if Teruya just gets a nice, smooth draw, the games don't even look close. We've seen him completely shut out games when he gets those reasonable draws. So that's what he's going to be looking for games 2 and 3. And he also has a really nice sideboard plan here. We saw the combination of, Knight of Autumn, use all kinds of different ways, Disenchant effect, +2/+2 counters, and then Crawl Harpooner and Baffling End also being very strong. Although in this specific matchup, Harpooner doesn't have those targets anymore. No Healer's Hawks, no Trusty Rusty. This time around, he might not choose to bring that Crawl Harpooner in.
That's right. So he's been here before, get ran over in the first game, put together a sideboard plan and some better draws in the next 2 and win, or is it going to be Jérémy Dezani? We're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll have the conclusion of this match and all the others in our feature match area here from Atlanta. Don't go anywhere.
Countdown, tick, tick, tock. About time we set things up.
And welcome back to the feature match area here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Paul Cheon. Thanks so much for coming along for coverage of round number 16 here at Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. We're right down the stretch. We've got some of our top 8 taking form, but we're filling in a lot of seats here in the feature match area this round. We got to watch a blisteringly quick loss by Teruya Kakumae to Jérémy Dezani, who had just a nice Boros aggro curve out, even though he actually skipped his third turn as far as curve outs go, but he still got the job done. So let's take a look in here while our main table gets set to battle again. Alejandro Olea Garcia is playing against Shota Yasuoka. And their records coming in were actually 11-4 and 11-4. So this one will not be a win and in for top 8 under all normal circumstances. We actually had quite a large Pro Tour here. By Pro Tour standards, the biggest, in fact, that we've ever had for an individual Pro Tour. And as many of you know that watch a lot of tournament Magic, the bigger the field, the better the record you need to get into the top 8. And 11-4, or in this case 12-4 when everything's done, doesn't look like it's going to get the job done this time around.
Yeah, not this time around. Biggest Pro Tour we've had in a very, very long time. Biggest individual Pro Tour. Looks like we have Is It Drakes here going up against Grixis Control. Oh man, Shota's playing a nice one. He's got Disinformation Campaign in his deck to go with cards like Thought Erasure, and there must be some other, Sinister Sabotage as well as the Surveil effects to get back Disinformation Campaign. Also strung with Doom Whisperer, which is his primary win condition, along with Nicol Bolas the Ravager. You know, and we haven't seen a whole lot of this. Flipped Search for Azcanta. You know, back when it was
Feels like
printed
years ago since I've seen one of those.
People were talking about how this is going to take over Standard as the control finisher, and a lot of people have chosen not to play the card anymore and have instead just chosen to go with Chemister's Insight as kind of the late game card draw engine.
Do you have any insight as to why? What? I mean, we saw it get played in previous Standard all the time.
Right. So I actually asked the Guillaumes, best friends, Matignon and Wafutapa, why people have stopped playing Search for Azcanta, and they said, you know, there's only so much of this type of effect that you can really afford to play in your deck. You already play the 4 copies of Chemister's Insights to go with Teferi and the Ops, so it's really, really hard finding slots for that Search for Azcanta. And again, drawing a single Chemister's Insight will basically draw you into more Chemister's Insight. So over the course of a game, if you do draw 3 to 4 copies of Chemister's Insight, you're never actually going to have the mana to use Search for Azcanta.
And this looks like my dream draft deck here from Shota.
Shota has Beacon Bolt in his Grixis control deck.
Beacon Bolt
Wow,
and
that's
Disinformation Campaign, killing a Crackling Drake. It's like all is right with the world.
This is just what dreams are made of.
Indeed.
He just upgraded all the guild gates with these shocklands here. And Shota
looking to be in pretty good shape here, facing down an empty board with that active Search for Azcanta and maybe even Disinformation Campaign to get rolling.
Yeah. I don't know. Alejandro has a gigantic graveyard. I don't know if there are any Arclight Phoenixes in there. That would be kind of his way to kind of get back into this.
All right, well, this one may take a little while to actually come to fruition. There's shock going upstairs
There has
from
to be a
Shota
Phoenix.
from 15 down to
Random
13.
shock.
So we're going to go back to our main table. We don't want to miss a single second of action there. As we learned the hard way in game 1. Boy, if you look away for a second, if you need to go grab a sandwich or perhaps an Arnold Palmer to drink,
You would say that.
just as an example, you may have missed game number 1, and it was Jérémy Dezani just laying the beat down.
Oh, and look at this. This is a much better start from Teruya Kakumae.
I like it better already.
Look at this. He's
a
got
two-drop.
he's got the superior 2-drop against aggressive matchups in Amara, and he has, look at this, multiple Saproling migrations as well. But it looks like he doesn't have land number 3. But he still has a play this turn, and he does have that additional Saproling migration. And then after that, he can still set up a pretty reasonable sized March of the Multitudes, which will definitely help swing the race.
Boy, this start from Teruya looks so much better. And look at this. He can even just start exchanging Sapperlings for 4 life from Dezani's life total here.
And Teruya happily making him do that. Really wants to find a land, but instead he finds Tristani Discordant. The last card you want to see in this situation. He does have the ability to attack with Amara here and try to trade with the Knight, and he'd still be able to make a 1/1. Oh, attacking with everything.
He figures, look, Jeremy, you're going to have to block this Amara. You can't just let me keep it turning it sideways every turn and creating more and more value. And if that's going to get blocked for sure, I'll send in with the other 2 as well. So smart play here from Kakumae. How many cards do you have in your hand? Just a cool 6. If I'm Dezani, I'm like, oh, no.
Well, it's easy to have a lot of cards in hand when you're not hitting your land drops.
That's right. It hasn't really slowed him down much, and this is also where we might get a chance to see Convoke really shine, allowing him to cast spells that he couldn't cast otherwise down the road. Oh, and look at this. Jérémy Dezani says, you know what? I'm going to let you keep on turning Amara Soul of the Cord sideways.
And I like Kakumae just being aggressive here as well, because this does also shut down the power of the Adanto Vanguard. There's only so many times that Jérémy Dezani can actually afford to use the pay for life mode to give it indestructible.
Yeah, look at his life total's already down to 11, and this isn't from a devastating board from Kakumae either.
Right. Let's see what Dezani's working with here. All the 4 drops. That's 4 4-drops in his hand to go with a Legion's Landing. So a few decent options here. It's a little bit awkward. I mean, he can either go for the Aurelia here to get in for a big attack. He could also go for a Heroic Reinforcements. But Aurelia does set him up nicely, because that means that Teruya really can't attack into that Aurelia once it enters the battlefield.
Dezani really taking his time with this turn, trying to figure out, okay, over the next 4 turns, how do I either shore up this board state or get my opponent dead?
Right. And this is one of Dezani actually isn't playing the full 4 copies of Experimental Frenzy that you see in a lot of other lists, because that's because of the fact that he is a little bit more top-heavy in terms of the mana curve. He's playing Aurelia and Heroic Reinforcements. So, you know, Experimental Frenzy is at its best when you have an extremely low mana curve. So if you are kind of overloading your deck with a bunch of these powerful 4-mana cards, you know, you really can't afford to play the full 4 copies.
And you can see that. Look at his hand here. 4, 8, 12, 16, 17 mana worth of cards in his aggro Boros deck.
Yeah.
It's, he's definitely playing a slightly larger version than some of the other players that we saw.
Yeah, this is an extremely important turn for Jérémy. There might be a rules question going on here, but whether or not he goes for the reinforcements in Aurelia, and both seem like very reasonable options here. But, you know, Jérémy is down to 11, so playing that Aurelia means that Teruya just cannot attack unless he has something like Conclave Tribunal.
One of the things you can do as a player is you can ask a judge for what we call the Oracle text, the most current legal text on the card, just in case, and he was just asking the judge for that on one of Teruya Kakumae's cards to make sure that he understood exactly what was going on, though. I don't know what card.
Yeah. Don't know if he's aware of Teruya's sideboard plan.
Yeah. He also can ask about cards that aren't on the battlefield, so he may be thinking of something that Kakumae might be playing. All right, in comes the Knight, but Kakumae says, you know what, I got plenty of time for that. And there she is.
Oh, interesting. The post-combat. Huh. Maybe he thought he'd be able to get in that 2 damage in for free if he did not play the Aurelia.
This is getting interesting now.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, he could have made it 4 and perhaps enticed Kakumae to block, or even just got in for additional damage. But he had a reason. Dezani, you know, that was calculated. We'll have to kind of stick around and figure out maybe what he was thinking with his post-combat Aurelia there.
And Kakume's still stuck on 2 lands. I mean, he had a nice little start, but Jérémy is just getting further up the curve, and he's just playing far more powerful spells. This turn, he does have the ability to play Heroic Reinforcements and attack for a lot. This is also the same turn that History of Benalia has gone off, and we are looking at a knight on the battlefield. 2 knights on the battlefield. Heroic Reinforcements would mean that they're 5/4s. Aurelia also has Mentor. Don't think Jérémy's going to forget it this time around.
Yeah, it's funny. He didn't know that she had that. We asked him, like, oh, did you forget that whole time? He said, no, I just didn't know. This is my first time playing with the card. And, I mean, it already does so many other things. He was kind of like, really? It has more relevant text than this? So
Kakumae actually has the ability to play March of the Multitudes here for 4, which will then net him 5 tokens overall, as if he taps Amara Soul of the Accord, that would also produce an additional lifelink token.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this is, of course, the big problem when you're Jérémy Dezani, because what Jérémy's trying to do is he's trying to get as much stuff onto the board as possible, which is exactly what he's doing, and then he's trying to play that Heroic Reinforcements at the end of it all to try to get in for some huge crushing attack.
Right. And it looks like we're now in beginning combat. Aurelia triggers. And we're going to be able to flip this Legion's Landing here with a big attack.
By the way, the judge just popped in. They gave Jérémy Dezani a slow play warning. That's simply an urge to make sure that he plays at a speed consummate with finishing the round within time.
Right. Although, keep in mind, it is in Jérémy's best interest to not pick up an additional draw here. He does want to actually win the match, as an additional draw would knock him out of the top 8 contention.
Big attack step here from Dezani. By the way, speaking of Aurelia, BDM told me that he played, when Jérémy played against Mahara, he got to teach Mahara that it had Mentor, that Aurelia had Mentor, because Mahara had played it all weekend and didn't know either.
Just hidden text.
Yeah.
I mean, Aurelia, to be fair, Aurelia has a lot going on.
She really does.
Yeah. So Kakumae will make 5 lifelink tokens off of just 2 mana, 2 lands. And I think, okay, it's possible that he's going to look to put some in front of the Adanto Vanguard. I can see him putting 2 creatures in front of the Adanto Vanguard to force Jérémy to pay some life. Don't know if he needs to block the other creatures, actually, because he's going to be at a high life total, but it looks like that's what he's going for. Will Jérémy let the Adanto Vanguard die or pay the 4 life?
So it looks like he broke even on life total there.
Right, and Jérémy chose not to pay the 4 life to keep the Adanto Vanguard alive. And next turn is potentially going to be pretty big for Jérémy Dezani. He's got 3 knights on the battlefield. Next turn, History was going to produce another knight. And keep in mind, Jérémy still has Heroic Reinforcements in hand for a potential huge attack next turn. Meanwhile, Teruya really wants to find some lands. Now, is Teruya going to throw away 3 creatures here just to get that additional mana source from the Legion's Landing? If he does do that, let's take a look at his hand here. He's got a History of Benalia that he can play. But he would be just straight up throwing away 3 creatures, as his entire army are just 1/1s outside of that Amara. But that Jérémy has an Aurelia in play to block the Amara Soul of the Court as well.
Oh, Jérémy Dezani kind of straightens up his shirt and says, all right, let's get to blocking.
Yeah, well, things are looking very good for Jérémy. Teruya has been stalled on 2 lands for a very long time, and those Knight tokens are going to just be able to eat these 1/1s. But Teruya does need to develop his board, does need to get to mana. At this point, he really needs to get to 5 mana to play the Tristani Discordant in his hand. One thing Kakumae could do this turn as well, instead of playing History of Benalia, would be playing the Knight of Autumn to use the disenchant effect and get that History of Benalia on Jérémy Dezani's side off the battlefield.
Jérémy spent a lot of time in Japan. He was living there for a while. Probably played a lot of games against Kakumae.
Yep, Knight of Autumn, getting rid of History of Benalia.
Yeah, that is certainly limiting the damage potential from Jérémy.
But Jeremy's just going to slam at heroic reinforcements here and just get in for so much damage. He's got...
Well, he's been setting this up for 3 turns. Remember when he kind of did the not like this hands in his head and said, okay, what am I going to do? This was his plan.
Right. Look at this. He's going to have 2 tokens along with 4 3/3 Vigilance Knight tokens. And keep in mind, there's also that Aurelia trigger. Did he forget his Aurelia trigger? Or... Okay, he's targeting Aurelia.
Yeah,
and
targeting herself. Attack with all of these. And there's that Mentor trigger. Nice work, Jérémy. We did it.
What if it was like the important trigger to actually get the win?
I don't think you'd forget. That's what I think. Jérémy's been here before. He's been under the pressure and the lights. He was our featured drafter this morning after being undefeated. He has picked up 3 losses and a draw today.
Jeremy's out-tokening the token deck.
Yeah, it's
now.
insane. Boy, you can see why Jérémy decided to splash for heroic reinforcements. You know, it upset his mana base a little bit. A lot of the decks in the field, like the Team Channel Fireball deck, is effectively mono-white in the main with some red in the sideboard. But this heroic reinforcements has been so strong every time we've seen it.
Absolutely. Just
blows the doors off the game.
Along with History of Benalia, really, anytime we've seen games where a player goes history into history, I mean, their win percentage has to be something close to 70%.
Seriously, it is so difficult to beat back-to-back History of Benalia. It just creates such a huge board state for such a small amount of mana and so early in the game.
All right, so presumably this will keep Teruya alive. Aurelia's attacking in for 5. 3 from the token.
10,
12. And Teruya currently at 22, so yeah, doesn't have to worry too much yet.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 5, 12, 12 and 3, 15.
15 damage
Wow.
is what's getting through.
10,
Right.
12, 15 damage. You go 7. I gain 3. I go to 14.
Wow, look at the life total swap there. Now it's 7-14 in Dezani's favor, and he's still way ahead on board.
Yeah, heroic reinforcements is just one of the most punishing cards because it's one of those cards that if you're just a little bit ahead, it blows the game wide open.
Wow, so much on the line here for both of our players. Jérémy Dezani likely into the top 8 with the win, though he will be 12-3-1, which is where we predict the cutoff is going to be. Depending on how the other matches go, he could be in. Perhaps he finds himself in a tiebreaker scenario. You never know.
Yeah, and I was also told that Wilson Mock is, in fact, actually playing out his last round against Makahito Mihara. And Makahito Mihara was XN3. So if Wilson Mock wins, then I believe Jérémy Dezani, if he wins this match, is very likely to make it into the top 8.
Right, he'll clear another slot out of the way and make that much, much more likely. Mihara perhaps hoping to take an intentional draw in the last round, instead stuck playing against, well, perhaps our number 1 seed, Wilson Mock. Jérémy draws his card for the turn, and look at this, he's back in the tank again. He knows how important getting the details right are down the stretch.
Yeah, but he's so far ahead here.
So far ahead.
All those knights are just making these sapling tokens look silly. He can just get, again, target Aurelia, mentor onto another creature, and just pretty much swing with anything and not really have to worry. There's not a lot the Selesnya that can have here.
And he's going to just go ahead and line up perceived blocks here, or maybe worst case scenario blocks. Though I think he'll be quite happy with how how that pans out for him.
Yeah.
And all of this as well is with Aurelia just getting in anyway.
Yeah. The only important
Two-turn
thing here
clock
is just to make sure Jérémy, makes his decisions in a timely manner, because of course he does have that warning for slow play.
Yeah,
4, 8.
he's counting in French, so he's in business mode here. He really should be careful with that. Having received a warning, that would not be the way you'd want this match to end. So he's going to go ahead and attack, and he's aware of it.
Yeah. As long as... Yeah, he just wants to make sure as long as everything is at least a 2-2, although he does have that 1-1 soldier. But this is a huge attack.
Yeah. And like I said, Aurelia, Exemplar of Justice, getting through in the air twice is enough on her own.
Right.
Because
she's been extremely impressive. We've just, every time she hits the battlefield, just completely changes the way that these games are played.
Kakumae was going to gain a life off of that one vampire that's left over, but that's 4 and 8.
Yeah.
It's exactly enough in the air, and that's assuming that he can take no damage on the ground where he's summarily outclassed.
Kakumae just doing everything he can to survive here, but he has yet to find lands to continue playing the bigger threats in his hand. And when you're handcuffed like that, you just can't keep up, especially when you're facing an Aurelia Exemplar of Justice. I think we're just going to be about a couple of turns away, maybe even the next turn.
It could be the next turn. Jérémy will connect here.
これでもう4, 6, 7, gain 1, go to 1.
That was Ricky perhaps also urging Teruya to make sure that he's playing quickly enough. But look at this.
16.
A board state where all the creatures are gone and you're on 3 lands when you're in the Selesnya tokens deck is not where you want to be. Jérémy Dezani firmly in the driver's seat to put himself in prime position for another top 8.
That's the third history.
That's right. And I think that's going to make Teruya history as well. He extends a hand, and that's Jérémy Dezani perhaps securing a seat in the top 8. He's going to have to sweat the tiebreakers and the rest of the standings to see how everything else plays out, because he's going to be right on that razor's edge. But he has given himself the best possible chance to get in by winning this last win-in against what we figured was a pretty tough matchup. But in the first game, it looked easy. Okay,
right.
Fine. His opponent stumbled. That game, he just simply overpowered the token stack.
Right. Well, but the thing is, Kakumae played a grand total of 4 lands
In the whole match.
between the whole match.
Even
So-
at the end, he only had 3.
Right. Like, who knows what the game would have looked like if he was able to develop his board, play his own history, play Tristani. It might have been a closer game. But we see that this is the advantage of moving into that extra color and not just staying monocolor. He gets to play heavy hitters like Aurelia, which is a giant flyer, can just single-handedly change the way a game's played.
Yeah. And let's not forget history of Benalia and how key it was there. A stumbling opponent, and he had multiple histories each game. Forget it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's jump back over to Shota Yasuoka playing against Alejandro Garcia. And who won game 1? Alejandro won game 1. And
He won that game?
Yeah, and he's
Wow.
way ahead on life total here. He's got Shota down to 3, but as we know, that doesn't always matter.
Yeah, and there's a Firemind's research on the battlefield.
Dude,
so
look at that graveyard.
All Garcia needs to do is just try to... Yeah, that's very
I
pretty.
got lost in there.
Yeah, it's like the Matrix. Like,
I
what's
can't
going
stop
on?
staring at it.
Oh, wait. Shota was at 3, but he gained 4 life as he cast 2 Moment of Cravings to deal with those Electromancers.
Oh, okay. Interesting. And then also let's keep in mind here, there's Firemind's Research on the other side of the battlefield, a card that's very, very difficult for Grixis to deal with
Absolutely.
ultimately.
Alejandro's just looking to try to chain some spells together here, put some counters on this. If he can get 5 spells, we can remove 5 counters to deal 5 damage to any target. Oh my. Now that's a draw. Shota.
Niv Mizzet Perun has hit the battlefield, and this is extraordinarily difficult for Shota to deal with. The control deck's nightmare
Shota's
here.
gotta just have nightmares of this card, period, because this is exactly how he lost to Guillermo Fatapa as well in both games 1 and 2 in this in a similar blue-on-blue matchup.
He does have the answer for Niv Mizzet right away, but as we know, even having answered it, you give up value.
Right.
Oh, boy, he misses here.
But he gets a surveil, return the disinformation campaign.
Yeah, might as well play it. So that was thought erasure, but it only hit a land, so can't take that away. But the disinformation campaign can, though the more important part is that Shota gets to draw a card off of that.
Yeah, the important thing here is Shota really wants to find some kind of threat to put onto the battlefield.
Ooh, Crackling Drake is going to get immediately disdainful stroked. What can Shota do to win this game? He has stabilized.
He's got a few win conditions, and look, he's merely
just casting this into an empty hand at this point.
Yeah, and he surveilled the land into the graveyard. He's going to keep trying to get a 100 card, but he keeps finding lands. So Alejandro still has draws here.
He has plenty of draws. He needs to start chaining some cantrips together to get that Fire Mines research rolling.
Ooh,
and there's
big.
one right now. Though the fact that Shota has taken away the cards out of his hand is going to make it a little awkward for him to do the jump start unless he just draws something he doesn't care about, which looks like that's what happened. Wow, Murmuring Mystic.
Discarding Murmuring Mystic. He really wants to find that third spell to get that Arclight Phoenix in his graveyard back into play. He can also pay 2 mana to remove 2 counters and draw a card off Fire Mines Research, although then he would need to find a 1 mana card draw spell. Oh, he's looking for it.
Oh, it was negate. Not a bad draw, I suppose.
And Shota still finding a bunch of lands here.
There's another big threat off the top of the library there for Alejandro. He found another Crackling Drake.
Wow, and he has the negate
Backup too. And that one just resolved, by the way. I assume that Shota has a removal spell in that case, but it means he's out of counters because you wouldn't let that card resolve if you could help it.
Wow, and he's going for the Charter Course here instead of trying to protect the Crackling Drake.
Boy, hope he hits an untapped land to be able to cast that negate.
Not sure that he did.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
He's left the shields down
so
on
there
this.
is an opportunity here.
And look at that.
Shota had, to be fair, the Beacon Bolt,
Yes.
he would have been able to cast it twice.
But still, you got to make him.
Right.
I mean, this is just raw resources going at it. And when it comes to that, Shota's the one who's ahead thanks to Disinformation Campaign having filled up his hand. Now, it was just a bunch of lands, but still.
Oh, are we going to see a hard cast Arclight Phoenix?
Yeah, why not?
There we go.
And it's in the red zone, too. But once again, Shota knows how to stay alive. Moment of Craving is going to knock him up to 10 and take out the Phoenix. But there's 2 in the yard.
There are a bunch of Phoenixes in the graveyard.
At least 2, right?
Yeah.
Another Thought Erasure.
This one gets negated.
Is going to get a negate, which means no Surveil and no Trigger.
But we have 2 cards, two cards on Fire Mines Research, so he can cash those 2 counters in to draw a card.
And he's going to go ahead and do so. He also could go for a game plan of just trying to build it all the way up.
Right.
It would take a lot, though.
But it looks like he's rather just looking to go for the Arclight Phoenix plan.
Okay. That is very difficult for Shota to keep dealing with him over and over and over again.
But both players hitting a big land pocket here at the end.
Yep. Land go, land go.
Did Shota just board out all his creatures? What's going on?
Is it a dive down? What would that be? He wouldn't play dive down, would he? Maybe.
Possibly.
It's a pretty cool build he has.
I see Disdainful Stroke. I don't think it's a dive down.
Okay.
It might be Beacon Bolt.
Right there? What is that? Let's see. Let's take a look at his hand.
Oh, it actually is dive down and a
Dive
Beacon
down.
Bolt.
He's got one of each.
4 mana. Oh, just another Arclight Phoenix.
Boy, we already know there's 2 in the graveyard. Here's a third one.
Yeah.
And this is just giving Shota fits, because what was he supposed to do? Start countering these? He has Sinister Sabotage, but countering Arclight Phoenixes isn't great.
Ooh, but
this
we're
is a good
dive
answer.
Down.
And look at this. Dive down to protect the Arclight Phoenix.
I think Shota has to sabotage this.
He does.
And he does get to the Surveil, which will then return the Disinformation Campaign to his hand. And he's able to gain 2 life from the Vraska's Contempt. So
This is a lot of upside on this. Not particularly the fight he wanted to fight, but exile the Phoenix, surveil, get a card, knock a card out of his hand. That's all to protect here. That is definitely worth a counterspell.
yeah, Shota's win conditions from what I can see here are 3 Doom Whisperers and 3 Nicol Bolas the Ravagers.
Put the card on top.
Okay.
Perhaps
Disdainful Stroke on the Vraska's Contempt.
Shota just calmly has the backup plan here with the cast down. but there's at least 3 Phoenixes in the graveyard now.
Yep.
And that is scary stuff. Disinformation campaign. You got to discard a card, Alejandro, but he had recently drawn a few cards, so he'll just pitch a land here.
Look at his graveyard.
Wait a minute. Is that his graveyard? It's
It was
huge.
bigger than the deck.
Another disinformation campaign. Is he going to get a spell? No, just another land. And it looks like Thief of Sanity in the hand now for Shota.
Oh, that's a Doom Whisperer.
And a Doom Whisperer here now. Clock acquired.
Right. Keep in mind though that Alejandro does have a Beacon Bolt, which I'm just gonna assume that it's enough.
We're gonna go ahead and assume that. Yeah, I like the way you're thinking, Paul. Just point at that stack of cards that is the graveyard.
So can Alejandro? I mean, he might be able to get in for a ton of damage here.
That was an opt plus the Beacon Bolt.
Plus the Beacon
so
Bolt.
Anything else?
So Beacon Bolt will then put an additional counter on Firemind's Research, which he could then crack for another card and try to find another spell.
Oh, great point. So he can really just chain things together.
Now, if Shota
Make him count.
If Shota surveils here, he'll go down to 8, which would mean the 3 Arclight Phoenixes would be lethal.
Yeah, you saw him pause. I think he wanted to, but he realized
Does he
couldn't.
find it?
Yes, there's
there it
Strata
is.
Course. And now we're going to get 3 Phoenixes coming back into play. Minimum. There might even be a 4th. I mean, we came to this game pretty late.
Right. And this is how you beat these controlling, Grixis, Jeskai, and black-green decks.
Wow, what a turn for Alejandro. I'll remind you that these players are both at 11-4 and likely not playing for top 8 at this point, but still finishing this high, a top 16 or just a deep run at the Pro Tour, that's a lot of money, a lot of pro points, and a really, really good finish for either player. So very, very important to these pros. It's
there's
all
4.
4 Phoenixes, and he needs to have an answer for 1 or he's dead on the spot, and he has 1 more removal spell. It's a cast down, and that's going to leave Shota.
What can he do here?
1 life. I don't think anything.
Does he have a sweeper, maybe?
Not in his
Ritual
hand.
of Sith does not do it.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, Chemister's Insight.
Make it exciting.
Can he find anything? He's down a game. This is for the match. He found Nicol Bolas and the Eldest Reborn, but he's at 1.
He needs 1 more removal spell on top of that.
And he can't.
Yeah. He can deal with
He can.
two of the Phoenixes.
Yeah, he could cast the. He could jumpstart the Chemister's Insight.
I think that's
but
what he has to do.
His mana is getting a little thin at that point, even with this many lands on the battlefield. He's thinking about what outs he has, and he's considering, all right, it's just going to be...
Moment of Craving, maybe?
It was Duress and a land, Paul. He's done. That's going to do it. Alejandro
What a game.
Olea Garcia defeats Shota Yasuoka in what ended up being kind of a control mirror between that Drake's deck and the Demir deck from Shota. Wow, that was impressive stuff from Alejandro. I mean, this is a long 2 days, right, of Magic, and these players sat down, and he's got to sit down across from one of the best players in the game,
Right.
Shota Yasuoka, and play his game at his speed, and he still beat him. Really impressive.
Well, and we saw a very large percentage of the field bring this Drake deck to the table, and I think that was a response to not only the dominance of the black-green mid-range deck over the last few weeks, but also just kind of expecting a lot of control. You definitely see a good amount of control at the Pro Tours because a lot of these players go, well, I expect a lot of aggro. What's the response to that? I'm going to play a control deck. Well, if you go next level and you expect a lot of control decks, play a deck full of Arclight Phoenixes because they're incredibly difficult to deal with. And even if you find, Shota had a ton of removal spells for those Phoenixes. Didn't matter because they
Infinite.
just keep coming back.
That's right. The key one's getting countered, and he got the job done for Alejandro. Now, we know you have a lot of questions about the top 8, how it's forming, who's winning, what things are happening. We're going to be bringing you that top 8 announcement, but first, these messages, and then we're going to take a trip over to the news desk. We'll see you after that.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the news desk. Behind me, there is a throng of people. It was the biggest ever individual Pro Tour, but I'm not kidding. There's got to be 150, 200 people hovering around the feature match area trying to work out who is in the top 8 of Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. Well, in a sense, it's quite simple, Eduardo. 8 slots, 7 players we know, based on what we've just seen, got to 37 points or better. So we just left with 1 slot for someone on 36. One of those 37 points or better is out on the floor right now with Brian David Marshall.
Thanks, Rich. I'm here with Denmark's Kasper Nielsen. Kasper, the nickname for you was the Cursed One. Am I getting this correct?
Yeah, it was. It took a long time to get here to the Pro Tour. I believe it was 9 PTQ final-ish matches. We're talking winning INSET GPs, PTQ finals, RPTQ quarterfinals. I don't remember if it was 7 or 9 anymore, but it was something like that until I qualified for my first one. This would be my 3rd one. So yeah, that used to be my name.
And that name will have to change, obviously. But tell me a little bit about when you realized you'd be playing Healer's Hawk in Constructed at the Pro Tour.
About 4 days ago. I never thought it was going to happen, but we, like most other people at the Pro Tour, we came up with the conclusion that the White Weenie deck was really good, and we were trying to beat it, and we just sort of couldn't. And we tried, and we made really awkward versions of other decks in order to try to beat it, and even the awkward versions were doing like pretty mediocre against it, maybe slightly favored. So we just ended up like, okay, we're going to play this deck, and then we started tuning for the mirror. And we put in a couple of Aurelias in our deck. We put a 20-foot land in our deck, cut down a little bit on the 1-drops. And up until Thursday evening, actually, there was 4 Healer's Hawks in our deck. The reason that it changed was that we were a little bit worried that it might sacrifice a little bit in the Jeskai control matchup. So we ended up swapping it back, and, well, the rest is history.
Looking to make some more history this weekend. Kasper Nielsen playing in his first Pro Tour top 8, no longer the Cursed One. His Twitter mentions are open for new nickname suggestions.
I'm going to be real honest here. I thought the whole point of the Bolt the Bird team was that they just had by far the best name and the best logo in the team series, and that was about going to be it. And here we are in the first Pro Tour of the season. Not so at all. Kasper Nielsen, not on the Danish team, the all-Danish team of Snapcaster and MTG Mint, and now here in the first Pro Tour top 8. Fantastic. Based on what we've seen, Maria, who would be our #1 seed?
Wilson Mock.
Okay, so the Canadian, Eduardo, playing in his 5th Pro Tour. So he would be #1. Who would be #2? 39 points?
That would be Michael Burnett.
Right, so just a fantastic run in his... he calls himself lucky because the Indianapolis Colts Andrew Luck shirt, but just great work. We've seen Kasper Nielsen in. We know that Yuya Watanabe is in. Someone who has been right in the mix throughout the day is Jérémy Dezani. He had to win in the last round. He did. Here he is.
Thanks, Rich. I'm here with Jérémy Dezani. Jérémy, it's been a crazy afternoon for you. Tell me about what that roller coaster of that last round was like.
Well, you know, I was already in this spot like a few years ago in Madrid, and I 0-4 the last 4 rounds. And here I had three winning in, and I lost the 2 first. So I was starting to think a little about what's going on, and I was like, it's like a liberation after when I won the last round. It's like, wow. I was waiting for this second top 8 in 5 years after I got 9 on tiebreaker and this stuff. I play every PT, and to be honest, most of the time it was like a disillusion for me and not a good result. And this time, like, it's like, yeah, I broke the door. I'm very happy about it. Very happy. Yes.
Congratulations on that. I know we talked yesterday about Aurelia. Today, you got to share your knowledge about Aurelia with another player. Tell me about what happened in that second to last round.
Well, when I play against Miura, I didn't know. I was like, oh, I'm so happy. It's not only me, you know. It's like he's also playing pre-release today, so it's okay.
Yeah, Makihito Mahara also did not know about Aurelia, so that had to be a nice a nice moment for you in a stressful afternoon.
Yeah, it's very great. I'm very happy. I have to say thank you to my team who created the deck and did all the job for me. You know, last time I pick a deck, I almost never play, and someone built for me. I finished 9th. It was 5 years ago. So maybe I should stop playing my own deck and try to follow people. Maybe it's better. Yes.
Yeah, you don't have to be the deck builder. You just have to be the last person standing in the tournament playing the deck. That's what Jeremy's looking to do tomorrow here at Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica.
Here's a fabulously misleading stat for you. 100% of the time when Jérémy Dezani makes the Pro Tour top 8, Jérémy Dezani wins the Pro Tour.
That's how it works?
Well, he's 1 for 1. Pro Tour Theros Dublin 2013. He's back again. Doesn't have a teammate to play in the final. Pierre Dajon was that man in 2013, but he is into a second top 8. Fantastic job by him. So we know Mock, Bernat, Nielsen we've just heard from, Yuya Watanabe, Hall of Famer, Jérémy Dezani getting up to 37 points. There are more 37 pointers we know about. Maria, who are they?
Yeah, Tae Jun Hao is on 37 points.
So Singapore, Grey Ogre Games, tremendous job by him. No expectations coming into the weekend, Eduardo, and you just ride it all the way to the top 8.
Let's just go the whole way. It's all good to go. You know, like you just come, you have fun at the Pro Tour, and you make the top 8 by accident.
And Grey Ogre
Except,
Games
wait a
is so
second, he played
impressive.
well to make the top 8.
I'm trying to remember your first Pro Tour top 8. Weren't you at something like 3-2? So 2-3 even?
2-3-1.
2-3-1, there we go.
He had a little of an easier road starting 8-0, to be fair.
So yes, but there is a certain freedom at both ends of that spectrum, right? At 8-0, you're like, things are great, I'm demolishing draft, I'm killing constructed, and we don't always see the 8-0s making it, but here, both our 8-0s did, Tae and Dezani, which is great work. Maria, you've been around the game plenty, so have a word from you about someone who is in for sure on 37 points, Luis Scott Vargas.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see him at this tournament. You know, he said multiple times in interviews, and I've heard other people talking about, like Marshall, that he's got the renewed fire in his belly after kind of taking a little break, joining coverage, and that kind of thing. And it's awesome to see somebody, you know, get back into the game that they love so much and succeed.
7 players got to 37 points or better. Someone on 36 is about to join the top 8 of Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. The final results are in. It's time for the top 8 announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the feature match area here in Atlanta, Georgia. It is time for our Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica top 8 announcement. In first place, with 40 match points from Canada, Wilson Mock. Now, Wilson was the only player on 40 points, but we did have 2 on 39. In second place, with 39 match points from the United States, Michael Burnett. In third place also, with 39 match points from Denmark, Kasper Nielsen. In fourth place with 37 match points from Japan, Yuya Watanabe. Okay, we're halfway there. In fifth place with 37 match points from Singapore, Jun Hao Tae. In 6th place, also with 37 match points, from France, Jérémy Dezani. Our last 37-pointer in 7th place in his 9th Pro Tour Top 8 from the United States, Luis Scott Vargas. Okay, we had one 36-pointer from 11 that made it into the top 8. In 8th place, with 36 match points, from the United States, Andrew Ellenbogen. Ladies and gentlemen, your top 8 for Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica.